Have you ever had one of those days where nothing goes wrong because nothing is happening at all? Where everything around you is still, but somehow you feel like a car crash just occurred inside your soul? Imagine stretching that kind of day into an entire life, and not just your life, but everyone around you. Welcome to a world where poverty and powerlessness are not just the setting, they're the characters. Let me take you to Kalimpong, a damp, mossy town on the slopes of the Himalayas, where rain falls like it's trying to wash away your sins, and the mountains are so fertile that even your regrets could probably take root and bloom. Here lives a retired judge, a man so crusty he might as well have been pickled and preserved in the British Raj. He lives in a decrepit house with a dog he barely tolerates and a cook who dreams bigger dreams for his son than the judge ever had for himself. And then there's Sai. Sai is the judge's orphaned granddaughter who's been dropped into this world like an unscheduled package from her dead parents. Sai is young, smart, a bit out of place, and emotionally fragile. But then again, in this story, who isn't? Sai falls for her tutor, Gayan, who initially appears like your average academic love interest, bright-eyed, idealistic, maybe a little awkward. But then the political climate starts boiling, and Gayan's loyalties shift. From love to nation, from Sai to ideology. The poor guy gets radicalized faster than you can say post-colonial angst. But let's press pause and hop on a mental plane to the United States, where Biju, the cook's son, is living out every immigrant's dream. Except it's actually a nightmare. Biju is our tragicomic hero in America. Not the kind that gets featured in ads about the American dream, but the kind who washes dishes in basement kitchens and sleeps in places so cold he probably envied the dead fish in the freezer. One day he's working at a greasy Indian restaurant. The next, he's flipping burgers at a vegan cafe run by white people with dreadlocks who tell him to speak his truth. Spoiler alert, his truth is hunger. Still, Biju stays. Why? Because back home, his father thinks he's conquering Wall Street. His neighbors think he owns a company. And he's caught in a web of borrowed dreams, scared to fall into reality. Back in Kalimpong, things aren't any better. There's a political movement gaining momentum. Gorkha insurgents demanding recognition and rights. What do they want? To be seen. To not be invisible. What do? They start taking things. Not metaphorically. They literally take Lola and Noni's house, the neighbors, starting with their garden, then their telephone lines, and eventually their comfort. And it's hilarious in the darkest possible way, because here are two sisters who've lived a life of semi-colonial privilege, slowly realizing that their wealth is actually a very fragile dream bubble. One stray bullet and pop. Even the judge, a man who once held power like a weapon, is not spared. His past comes for him in the form of Sai, reminding him that you can't walk away from the duties you abandoned. And then, just when he's trying to adjust to this intrusion into his solitude, his dog is taken from him. Not because the dog was barking too much, but as a form of payment, a karmic receipt for a life full of silence where he should have spoken. Meanwhile, Biju, our American dreamer, finally cracks. America, land of the free, home of the overworked, isn't giving him anything but blisters and nightmares. So he returns, broken, and just to rub in the humiliation, wearing a dress. It wasn't for fashion, it was necessity, because Biju, like many immigrants, had to shed not just his culture, but his dignity to survive. And yet somehow, the happiest moment in the book is Biju reuniting with his father. Two men, poor as ever, hugging each other like they've won the lottery. But really, they've just won something bigger presents. They're together. And in a book this bleak, that's as close as you get to a happy ending. This deeply moving and profoundly layered story is The Inheritance of Loss by Kiran Desai, winner of the 2006 Man Booker Prize. Now let's talk about this book. This is not a novel about winners or about redemption. It's about rot, about decay, slow, patient, and certain. It's about how poverty can strip people of dignity, how colonial history can mutilate national identity, and how inherited losses of culture, of pride, of control can shape generations. The beauty of Desai's prose is how it balances stillness with weight. Nothing seems to be happening. But under that calm surface, lives are unraveling like old threads. Her language is precise, lyrical, and incredibly observant. She describes insects and woodlice with the same care she uses for emotions. If Arundhati Roy's The God of Small Things was your kind of book, you'll love this one too. But unlike Roy, Desai doesn't go off on long tangents. Her plot holds together, tightly, sadly, brutally. What stood out most to me was the way she handles the idea of the invisible authority, that silent, formless power that controls the character's fates. For Biju and his father, it's the myth of success. For Sai and the judge, it's the weight of colonial legacies. For Lola and Noni, it's the illusion of comfort. Nobody seems to act. Everyone reacts. And that in many ways mirrors life in many post-colonial developing nations, where survival is prioritized over transformation, where hope is deferred, and where the future is built on illusion. This book does not hand out inspiration. It hands out truth, raw and unvarnished. But in the darkest corners of that truth, you'll find a haunting kind of beauty. Kiran Desai is the daughter of acclaimed author Anita Desai, and The Inheritance of Loss is her second novel. It took her 7 years to write it, and you can feel the weight of those years in every sentence. Born in India and educated in the US and UK, Kiran writes from that liminal space, between belonging and exile, between presence and absence. Her work captures the migrant experience with brutal honesty and tender insight. If you've ever wondered what it feels like to carry someone else's dream while your own withers, or to live in a land that seems to push back against your every breath, then you'll understand The Inheritance of Loss. It's not just a book, it's a mirror. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. And if you've read the book, I'd love to know what parts stayed with you. Hey, thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you're interested in diving deeper into this book, I've left some links down in the description. You can use it to grab yourself a copy and keep the adventure going. And if you're in the mood for more great reads, don't go just yet. Click on one of the videos popping up right now that I think you'll love. And don't forget to give this review a like, leave a comment, or even subscribe if you'd like to see more. Every bit of support helps us grow this little community of book lovers. See you in the next one.